What's up guys, Mitch from the DIYRecordingStudio.com, and this week I've got an awesome new device right here to unbox for you all. It's one of the most asked about devices on this channel, and it was really interesting to hear how many of you were keen to hear one of these in some of my recent Hold Your Gas videos. It's going to be an awesome one, so let's get into it. So, what have I got? Well, this week, this should give it away. It's the 369 from Behringer. And when this was announced, there was a lot of interest about it, either positive or negative, and it's for good reason. The classic Neve 33609 is a very famous bus compressor and, you know, is used for bus duties, right? So drum bus or the mix bus in particular, and it has its own flavor because it's what we call a diode bridge compressor. And what Behringer have done, have taken this famous Neve classic compressor that is very expensive. For a vintage 33609, you're looking at $16,000 to $25,000, which is pretty eye-watering. And then for a modern recreation, the 33609N, they fetch about $6,500 in Australia. It's pretty crazy. So for Behringer to come out with something that is way more affordable, and in Australia we're talking about the $800 to $900 mark, depending on where you buy it from. This is a much more affordable device. And what I'm interested in, number one, is does it do the thing? You know, like, because that's the most important thing. Does it do the 33609 thing? Does it have vibe and mojo, and does it work well on a bus? And then also, what have they sacrificed? Because on this channel we like to look at the circuit topology and the way things really work, and if it's going to be a useful tool in people's studios. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter about the price, it doesn't matter about the brand name. At the end of the day, I don't care about that. What I care about is, does this tool do the job, or a job, that I find useful in mixing or recording? Anyway, that's enough chit chat. Let's get into the unboxing. All right, the old box in a box trick. They're inceptioning us. Standard kind of box. All right. Standard manual guide. Probably have a look at that later. There's some interesting things about how the limiting and compression circuits work on this particular device, on the original classic Neve. So I've seen online some people confused with how these work sometimes, so that's going to be worth a look. And then power cord. Always need more of those. And then go, the unit itself. You know, it's heavy, but not as heavy as what I would think. Maybe the original one might be a bit beefier, I don't know. Those Carnhill transformers tend to weigh a ton. Does feel rugged though. Cool. Oof. There we go. Now this is something I saw online that people complained about, and I've just had one of the knobs already break. So that's a bit of a bummer. That's now cooked. That's not going to work. Well, it's broken, so it's not going to sit right. So that off the bat is not a good look from Behringer there. These knobs definitely need to be replaced. Anyway, that is not good because that's already busted, and I'm gonna have to get some replacement knobs for that, which I do have lying about the place, but I can see why people would complain about these. These are very cheap plastic knobs, and they're actually really stiff. So I can feel that all of these feel like they're gonna break, actually. So that's not the best start. This typical power switch is in the Midas L10 racks that I have. That's fine. These switches here feel fine. Nothing feels too bad about them. It's just this contrast of really stiff potentiometers with these really cheap knobs, and Behringer really should have thought about that. These need to be changed. That's nothing to say about the sound of it, but already now on the limiter, on this recovery, I've got a broken dial, and I have to try and think of where that's even pointing. because that's 50 now. Anyway, that's a bit of a bummer straight off the bat. And this one's about to go too. Fuck, I only snapped that one straight away. So if you get one of these, don't turn them past their point. They've got a bit of flex to them and they'll flex past the point and then snap. So that's a bummer because the stepped controls are really good. Like, I like having stepped controls and it's really important for recall and stuff like that, but the knobs themselves are not good. I'm going to put some sturdier knobs on these at some point and change them out. Apart from that, we can see it's got the typical 33609 layout. We've got limiter section first. You've got your threshold and then your recovery, which is actually just your release time. Then limit in and out, so you can bypass it. And then you've got slow and fast attack. And what I love is that both channels are completely independent. So we can do dual mono or stereo or potentially even MS, which would be cool as well. On the compressor, we've got a similar thing again. You've got separate threshold, all right? Your recovery, your makeup gain, and then your ratio. And then your attack, once again, is either fast or slow. And on these compressors, they're quite fast. So they're even slow is slower, but still quite fast. We've got our stereo and mono switch here. So we could pick if it's dual mono. So then theoretically, we could use this on, say, kick and snare or two separate sound sources, and then also use it as a stereo linked mode, which is really, really awesome. Then on the back, you can see you've just got typical XLR ins and outs. It's fine. And then this kind of remote control thing, an external control, which is what this switch is for over here. This internal and external control. And then I've heard in videos that these meters, whilst look the part, okay, don't have any lights. There's no backlight here, which is a bit of a bummer. To make these professional, they should really have a light there. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll power this on, we'll set it up and put it in the rack, and we'll put it through its paces really quickly. So I've got the Behringer 369 now racked up. You can see it over here. And what we'll do is just give it a quick test, just see what it sounds like on some basic bus duties and drum bus. But I'll do a more in-depth deep dive into the sonic characteristics of this compressor and do some shootouts and stuff that you have come to expect on this channel. So we'll shoot it out against 33609 compressor plugins, and I might have an exciting hardware comparison as well. Mitta, I'm looking at you, buddy. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I just want to preface this video by saying that thank you everyone who has recently subscribed. We just hit 7,000 subscribers, and whilst that's not a massive channel by any means, it means a lot to me. And the money that went towards buying this compressor, it actually came from the YouTube revenue that I get from this channel. I've stated before that any money that comes into this channel directly from either people donating or through advertising will go back into reinvesting in this channel with more gear. YouTube doesn't give us a lot of money for advertising, so I may as well use it to reinvest and give you guys the stuff that you want to see on this channel. So thank you all. Anyone that's watched these videos, thank you so much, because that's allowed me to get this piece of gear. So hopefully I'm returning the favor. And also, if you're new, please hit like and subscribe and comment down below. Let me know what you think of this particular piece of gear and what is maybe some gear that you guys would actually like to see in future videos, because the bigger this channel gets, the more money I can make from it, the more cool gear I can get for you guys, and on it goes. And there's lots and lots of channels that do lots and lots of gear reviews, but what I really want to focus on is the tools that we can use in home studios. You know, what is it that excites you within your budget? Like, we don't want to be looking at necessarily beginner gear all the time, but we also don't want to be looking at, you know, $20,000 hardware compressors and stuff. We want to look at what's affordable, right? So anyway, that's how I feel about it. Let me know in the comment sections down below if you have anything you'd like to see on this channel. And yeah, just thank you once again. But that's enough from me. Let's listen to what this thing actually sounds like. Oh, and I should mention also, the track today is from a local Newcastle band called Pulse, and we just did their recent EP, tracking in the studio. All of it was done through my usual gear. So this is just a rough mix straight after tracking with some really, really basic plugin settings and no real editing yet whatsoever. But yeah, really good starting point to listen to what this unit is actually doing. Very cool. That actually is surprisingly awesome. So if you've watched this channel before, I have an SSL bus compressor, which I like to use on all of my mixes, but I can see this potentially taking its spot. It seems to do something I've heard other bus type compressors. I've got some Behringers that do this where the guitars do come up a lot because of the limiters. I'm not sure I'm using the limiters quite right yet. I think I'm going to have to work on that, and that's something that I've heard about with this unit. I can hear the limiters pulling up the guitars a lot in the mix, and I don't know if I love that, especially in the heavier part of the song, but the way it shapes the drums is excellent. It's got this punchiness, but it also helps the snare not come too far forward in the mix in some spots. It kind of lets it sit back a bit more. Yeah, it's doing some really interesting stuff tonally to the mix that I'm hearing. It makes the kick sound nice and punchy, but it sits right. And same as a snare. Like sometimes kick and snare can get really tricky to balance in the mix, and already it's just straight away on a rough mix, putting a kick and snare where I feel like it should be just by it sitting on a mix bus. That's very cool. I'm not hearing any real harshness yet in this. I'll obviously have to do more testing, but it sounds open and clean in a good way. It's not woofy in the lows or anything that I can hear yet. Yeah, it's doing a surprisingly good job for a clone, a very affordable clone of a bus compressor. I would say I'm pretty impressed with this thing. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's just have a quick go through again. I might just tweak that limiter a little bit. Very cool. I dialed back the limiter a little bit, and I think it lets those guitars breathe a little bit more instead of trying to pull them up in the mix. Really, really cool stuff, the way it saturates the drums so far. And I'll dive into this way, way more in more videos. I'm just really, one, testing the thing, and then, hearing what it does, quickly with some quick settings. So pretty cool. Let's just go to the drum bus, and we'll just solo up the drums and have a listen to what it does to drums. Jesus. Holy shit. That's cool. So, yeah, look, like, I think you should all probably be able to hear that. It's really bringing out the kick and the snare in this really amazing way. And, like, the whole space of the drums, tonally, I can hear it bringing up the reverb on my drums as well on that drum bus. So, it's bringing out the tails in things. The way it's saturating the transients of the snare, probably because, in part because of that limiter, maybe. It's really taming some of the stuff that I struggle with sometimes with snares, and it's making that kick nice and tight and punchy. These drums are like really, really roughly, crudely mixed at the moment. They're not by any means like edited or like even close to being mixed, finished. Like it's all rough settings that I will have on a basic session. So to hear such a polished kind of drum sound starting to come through in parts just when this compressor's engaged is actually really impressive. Like I'm actually shocked. I'm not going to sit here and spruik gear to people when I don't think it's good. But this is surprising. I obviously have to do more testing before I can make a full review, but I will be doing that, and I'll be doing a bunch of shootouts because shootouts also give you some perspective on what it's really doing sometimes. So we'll do a bunch of shootouts and some different tests, and if you're interested in these, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe down below for more content from this channel. Thank you once again to all of you who have subscribed and joined the channel and contributed to anything going on in the comment sections or otherwise. It really means a lot to me to see that engagement. I know a lot of you had questions about this piece of hardware, so I'm so stoked to be able to buy a piece of gear that you all wanted to see and start showing it to you. So hopefully you're all psyched for this one and all the other awesome DIY builds I have on this channel and other awesome gear reviews as well. If you have any further questions, you can also contact me on my socials, on Instagram, or my email, mitch@thediyrecordingstudio.com. It's a little bit easier to get into contact with me through those means. So if I miss your comments down below, don't feel scared to contact me directly. Thanks again for stopping by. I'm Mitch from the DIYrecordingstudio.com. I'll catch you soon.